Good morning, Lansdowne Woods. Although some of you watching this won't be from Lansdowne Woods, but most of you will be. So we are at the studios of the Northern Virginia Association of Realtors in Fairfax, and we are going to be discussing a whole range of Lansdowne Woods topics, but this is not scripted in any order. So if we end up making fools of ourselves, or you of me or me of you, you'll be entertained, but you'll forgive us. So my name is Andy Norton with Samson Properties, as you can see, and this is...
I'm Phyllis Whetzel, also in Lansdowne Woods and with Samson Properties.
Yes.
And as you can see, we're a little bit opposite. I like wine and water, he likes coffee and soda.
Yes, so, and while Phyllis is both a realtor and a caregiver, as you could infer from the liquid that's on her right, you might have seen her on occasion at Cooper's Hawk.
But this is from Boxwood, Andy.
That's from Boxwood. Okay, I stand corrected. I stand. Anyway, in a few days, you will see in your mailboxes at Lansdowne Woods our first newsletter. And it's a very interesting newsletter. I think you'll agree?
It is, however, you did not put in some of my recommendations. And that's okay, because you like to research and come up with interesting articles, informative. I, on the other hand, like recipes.
Yeah, so that was another conversation that we had. In this newsletter, typically, there will be a recipe on the back page, but I nixed that.
But the recipe would fit very well on this back page. See this spot right here? That's where it would go.
So we are looking for feedback from you on future issues of the newsletter. Do you want to see a recipe, really?
Well, I have some really good recipes, I think, and people have actually asked me for them. So I think it might be good. But we do need to hear from you as to what you would like to see in the newsletter for future reference.
Yes. So tell them how they can find us to give us the recipe feedback that we need.
Well, phone numbers are here on our name tags, as well as email address.
Yes.
It will also be in the newsletter.
So definitely be looking in your mailbox for the newsletter. Don't throw it out, it's substantive.
And let me know what recipe you'd like to see. Maybe you have a favorite one and I could feature you one month. What do you think of that idea?
I think on camera I should not be arguing with you. So, you want to get into substantive stuff?
Okay, let's do that.
In my last video, I referenced something that I'm getting a lot of questions about, and it seems counterintuitive, but here goes. So there's an article, and the headline is, VHDA programs you didn't know you qualify for. The government has redefined a first-time homebuyer. A first-time homebuyer used to be, I mean, this is intuitive, used to be somebody buying a home for the first time. But that's not what a first-time homebuyer is anymore.
What is a first-time homebuyer, Andy?
Oh, I thought you were going to say. Okay.
No, you tell me.
What is a first-time homebuyer is somebody who has not owned a home in the past 3 years. So let's say, for example...
So you mean grandchildren and children could qualify for this if they haven't owned a home?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, that's a good idea.
But grandparents can qualify for this. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this in a Lansdowne Woods video and also address it in the newsletter.
So you mean if someone at Lansdowne Woods has been renting for 3 years because they've sold their home or whatever, they could still qualify?
They can still qualify as a first-time homebuyer.
Very interesting.
Now, why would somebody want to do that?
Yeah,
to qualify
why would they?
Why would they? Okay. Well, we went through the training course together.
Well,
do you want me to say or you want to say?
Let's tell the audience.
Let's tell the audience. So, the Commonwealth of Virginia wants to encourage home ownership. And among the different ways through what used to be called the Virginia Housing Development Authority, now simply called Virginia Housing, they have, among other benefits for first-time homebuyers, a closing cost credit, which can be as much as 2% of the sale price. So what this means, really, if it's, let's say, a $400,000 condo in Lansdowne Woods, Virginia would give the home buyer an $8,000 closing cost credit that does not need to be paid back. And that's just one of the many benefits.
And there's other opportunities too, isn't there, Andy? Like more amount of money, a grant?
Yes.
More than that?
So, yes, they can have. Would you like to share about the grants? I'm trying to give you equal time here, okay?
That's okay. I don't need equal time.
Okay. So, if somebody is short on down payment funds, they can get a loan from the Commonwealth to, for example, make their purchase 100% down. And in addition to that, there's an interest rate benefit that could apply as well. And some of this will depend on where in the calendar year you or one of your family members may be buying. But at the moment, it's one percentage point off the interest rate for the life of the mortgage. So with respect to the Virginia Housing Development Authority, the mortgage loans that people get are from local mortgage lenders, and there are several that are approved for this. And with closing cost credits, it's a grant from the Commonwealth of Virginia. For down payment assistance, it's from the Commonwealth through Virginia Housing. And then you have the interest rate buy down, which is really extraordinary. If the prevailing rate, and today it's roughly kind of sort of 6.5%, with the interest rate buy down, as a buyer, you'd get 5.5% for the life of the loan. And depending on where in the calendar year and the fiscal year and the funding and the program, it could be as low as 4.5% for 30 years. This is amazing. A few years ago, I had a client who had many millions of dollars with an international bank. And that international bank, because they had millions of dollars there, gave them a mortgage that was 1% under market. This puts a first-time homebuyer on an even keel with a multimillionaire in terms of the mortgage interest rate.
And what's the downside of all of this, Andy?
The downside. A couple of years ago, before Virginia Housing Development Authority got computerized, it could take a couple of months to get one of these programs to closing. Now, the one that I'm doing, the name shall be off camera, that one will go to closing in a month, in 1 month. So basically, the same time period, no different than a regular mortgage.
Well, that all sounds very nice. However, I'm still thinking about the recipe that goes on this back page.
Okay. Depending on the feedback from you folks in the audience, if you want a recipe, next month, a recipe you shall get. And you say that you have a very good recipe library to draw upon.
I do, but I'm
Okay.
always open for new and better things. So
Okay.
please let me know.
And will any of these recipes feature wine, perhaps?
Probably.
It could happen.
It could happen.
Okay. Other topics in the newsletter that we point out. And you'll see on page 1, this sort of goes into a little bit of your background and why you're here to begin with. Can I give a little bit of your background? Or
You can, Andy. You're going to do it whether I give you permission or not.
Okay. So roughly a year and a half ago, you were at Blue Ridge Coffee, I think.
That's correct.
And you were lamenting, if that's a good word, that you had let the real estate license that you had in your prior life
That is correct.
lapse.
That is correct.
And you've been working as a caregiver the entire time since you left real estate.
Yes.
Okay. And I told you that if you really missed real estate, that you should get relicensed.
You did, and I did.
Right, but you had said no because, well, you said you were too old.
Well, there's that.
Okay. But So there is a realtor. This is kind of interesting if you want to digress from this video. If you go onto YouTube and look up a lady named Maxine Gellens, G-E-L-L-E-N-S, on YouTube. And she did an extraordinary presentation at a real estate convention a couple of years ago, and she was there as a featured speaker because at the age of 80, do you remember Maxine?
I do. I remember the video, and what did I tell you? Maxine, I am not.
Okay. However, they're wondering, well, what is there about Maxine? Why was she a featured speaker?
Because she's 80 years old and she makes $1 million a year in real estate, right?
Actually, she had, at the age of 80, she made $3.1 million in real estate. So what I was trying to convince you of at the time, and evidently I did because you did get your real estate license again, is that age is not a barrier. I mean, if somebody who's 80 can make $3 million in a year in commissions, the path is there. It's a question of wanting to do it. So you got relicensed.
I did.
Okay. And so one of the things that had struck me about Lansdowne Woods, and I've been selling in Lansdowne Woods now for a decade and a half. Do you want to go into this or not?
Go right ahead. You're on a roll.
I'm on a roll? Okay.
Yes.
So
I don't do well talking about myself.
All right. So in any case, it occurred to me that in almost every sale I had been involved in Lansdowne Woods in a decade and a half, there was some kind of a personal crisis going on that had to do with age. Maybe somebody was going into assisted living or nursing or had passed away, or maybe in hospice, or if they had passed away, there were adult children and the heirs were fighting. There was something going on in the background other than the transaction. And I thought, you know, a professional caregiver who also had a real estate license could bring an extra dimension to the family issues that are involved in the sale of the property, so that not only would the money work out, but the personal feelings and the humanity of the transaction would work out. Now, initially I think you were skeptical about this.
I guess that's where I get my recipes from, because I did a lot of cooking for a lot of years for a lot of people.
Okay. But I think that it is true that given the, I'll call the family dynamics behind the exits from Lansdowne Woods condominium, that a caregiver would really help. And so that was one of the reasons that I had wanted to recruit you onto my team. The name of the team, by the way, is DC Homes Inc. And my website is dchomes.com. Oh, it's on there. Okay. See? In any case, so that is a value proposition that no one else is bringing to Lansdowne Woods at present. And so if you have one of these situations going on perhaps in your own family, I can't imagine that somebody watching this would have adult children who would agree on everything. Is that possible? It might happen.
It could happen.
Right, but not likely.
Not likely.
In any case, there's an article about this on page 1 in the newsletter, and that introduces Phyllis as a caregiver that you should call and ask for in the sale of a Lansdowne Woods condominium. So that's another article that you will see on page 1 when this lands in your mailbox in a couple of days. And they should be on the lookout for this?
Yes, because we sent it to press as we're speaking, I believe.
As we're speaking.
And however long it takes Samson to get it in the mailbox, you will receive it.
Yes. Unrelated, by the way, to the substance of this conversation, we should give props to Chrissy Henderson, is it?
I think so.
Yes. She is the desktop publishing person at Samson who actually put this newsletter together. And she did, we think, a grand slam, home run on the design. So we think you'll be impressed.
And I think one of the more important parts that you're going to love about this newsletter is it gives the home's value, the properties that have sold.
Yeah, that's right side up.
And it's in color coded by number of bedrooms. Blue is 1 bedroom, green is 2 bedrooms, and red is 3 bedrooms. And it gives the date they sold and for how much.
Yes.
Everyone is interested in that.
Yeah, everybody wants to know what your condo is worth. On the back page, so let's flow into page 4.
Yeah, the back page that doesn't have the recipe.
That doesn't have the recipe. And the reason that I nixed the recipe, and evidently there's going to be Hades to pay on this, I can tell.
Depends on how many people want one.
It depends on how much people want a recipe. But in any case, on the back page is an article having to do with virtual staging. So I'm sure you've seen when you look at, let's say, a condo in Lansdowne Woods for sale online, very often what you see is a picture of an empty room. And unless it's a really special empty room, you're just going to keep on clicking because there's really nothing there for you to see. And do you want to talk about the virtual staging, or shall I continue?
Well, Andy, why don't you tell them about your Zillow account, because this is where you get this.
Okay. So Samson Properties has a contract with Zillow, and most of you have looked for homes online on Zillow. And part of our contract is that we use not only Zillow photographers, and they do a better job taking a picture of your home, but if the room is empty, they will digitally put furniture into it, and that's called virtual staging. So that when the consumer is looking at your condo online, they'll see usually 2 pictures in a row. One, the empty room, and the next one labeled virtually staged. And you can see in the newsletter the same image with a sofa and tables and decorating that were put in there by Zillow's desktop publishers.
And also, Andy, if, for instance, you still have your furniture in your condo, we will help you sort of pack up extra things because we all collect stuff. And so we will help you rearrange and pack up some things so that it makes it more appealing for pictures as well.
Right. Now, let's suppose, for example, that you've lived in this condo a long time, and they just have years of memorabilia, and they don't really want to pack it up before they move. Zillow's desktop publishing team will take the existing furniture out of the room and put new designer furniture into the room. And all of this, by the way, is on our nickel. This is a marketing expense that we pay for you so that your home will show better online.
And who doesn't want to make more money?
And who doesn't? And especially if one of the reasons that you or your friends are selling, maybe it's assisted living and you need the proceeds from the sale to pay for the assisted living. Or if somebody has passed away, you have the adult children issue. Have you ever known children who agreed? Child? What up? Okay, moving right along. Have you ever known adult children who agreed on the money? Almost never. So if there's more money to divide, there's less likely to be a disagreement. Other than did that come out okay?
You're just fine.
Okay.
You get the point.
You get the point. Okay. On these statistics, though, one of the things that doesn't show, and why you should really be calling us, is that garage spaces. A garage space makes a big difference. Currently, in most buildings now, they're selling between 35 and
40, 45.
A lot of money. So that if, for example, you see on these comparables in the newsletter, 2 two-bedroom units, and let's say there's like $40,000 difference between the two, good chance that's a garage space.
And if you say, well, I don't use a garage, I don't need one, you can rent it very easily for $150, $200. I even saw one where they were asking $300. Whether or not they got it, that's a different issue.
And as an investor, I'm getting $175 a month on a space that I have, and somebody else I know for a fact just got $200, and only because they insisted, and the person renting the garage space said okay.
And then when you get ready to sell the condo, it will be worth more. So in the meantime, you can get rent for the space and then sell the condo for more when the time comes.
Yeah. There are also buyers who will only look at a condo.
Yes, that is true.
With a garage space. So there may be a temptation to sell it. And look, we have seen people who've sold garage spaces.
Yeah.
But all things being equal, if you can afford to keep it, keep the garage space for sure. But as you're looking at the comparables, that's one of the differences that you'll see beyond the numbers. If you need, so let's say we have a publication date of, I think we needed to get this to the publisher 4 days ago, 5 days ago, something like that.
Something like that. First of the week.
Yeah. So what's on here is through the end of August, because that's when our publication date was. But we can run these stats current to any day, and they'll be current as of the day that you ask. So if you need something that's more current, that's easy peasy to do. Did you want to talk about estates and trusts? Because that's on here too.
Well, one of the things that we saw a presentation by an attorney recently who talked about a trust versus a will. And he explained it much better than anyone I've ever heard explain it before. So this article, Avoid Probate Pitfalls, sort of goes into some of that information.
Yes. If you don't have, well, two things on a trust. Number one, they can be very expensive. Without naming names, but we have a name in mind, there's somebody who's very well known in Leesburg, and if you find your way to this attorney, we're not going to name names, we're talking like $12,000 for a trust. At the presentation that we attended, this attorney, he was at $3,000 for a revocable living trust, which included putting your condo into the trust. And by the way, if you're going to actually do a trust, ask the attorney, but in all likelihood, your condo is going to want to be in the trust that you're setting up. The analogy he had was, if you remember about the safe and the jewelry.
Yes, he says it doesn't do any good to have a safe to protect your jewelry if the jewelry always sits on top. And that's kind of the concept with a trust.
Yeah. If you don't have a will, then certainly you should, at the very least, get a will. And if you don't, the term is called intestate. And dying intestate is probably the worst way that you can transition your legacy to the hereafter. But between having a will and a trust, this guy spoke for what, 2 hours? Something like that?
Something like that. But what impressed me was being able to avoid probate if you have things in a trust.
Another thing, there are some attorneys and some advisors generally where they take the approach that they have all the answers. This guy, he asked all the right questions, because what would be appropriate for your estate might not be appropriate for mine or for yours.
Well, you know, Andy, I'm thinking maybe we should have this attorney in and interview him.
That would be a great idea. And so just brainstorming here, we need your feedback if you're watching this.
We do.
Why not have him as a featured speaker in the clubhouse, and we can have Lansdowne Woods residents actually hear this fellow in person and see, I think, what a gift to estate planning he is. If you need a name and a phone number, we can provide that, but why don't we try to get him into the clubhouse for an in-person presentation?
Good idea. I like that.
Okay. I'm glad you said it was a good idea. Imagine if you had said it wasn't.
We agree sometimes.
Sometimes we do, but not in our choice of beverages.
No.
Cheers. Next week, this is going to hit your mailboxes. And in addition to the fact you don't want to know how expensive it is to print a 4-page color newsletter and to send it to 1,100 residences. In addition to that issue, the money completely notwithstanding, I think this is a great newsletter. Didn't you?
I've been told that it is.
You've been told that? Okay, so it will be in your mailbox. Be on the lookout for it. We think that you will find it informative, maybe even entertaining. And other than that, we look forward to meeting you and speaking to you in person in Lansdowne Woods. So if you see us in any of the buildings or in the clubhouse, especially in the clubhouse, be sure to flag us down.
And please don't hesitate to contact us with what you would like to see in the future newsletters.
Yes. Or on the internet, 2 websites that you can check. One, www.andynorton.com, and the other is your website.
PhyllisWhetzel.com.
At PhyllisWhetzel.com. Thanks very much, everyone, and we will see you around Lansdowne Woods. And don't forget, let us know about your recipe preferences.